Welcome to the Flag Bearer channel. This is Little Known Black History Facts. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Ride of the Black Horsemen, when black jockeys ruled. Organized horse racing dates from the second half of the 17th century in North America. It became a major pastime for wealthy landowners in the American South, and it was common for enslaved people to care for, to train the horses, and eventually to ride them in races. The earliest African American jockey known by name was Monkey Simon, who rode at the Clover Bottom Race Track in Tennessee about 1806. During the 1820s, horse racing became the most popular sport in the United States, and a large number of the best trainers and jockeys in the country were African Americans. The Civil War put an end to racing during the 1860s, as all available horses were needed for the military. But by 1875, horse racing had again become popular, and it was in that year that the first Kentucky Derby was run. The winner of that first race was an African American jockey, Oliver Lewis. Lewis was 19 years old in 1875 when he entered the inaugural Kentucky Derby race riding Aristides, a colt owned by H. Price McGrath and trained by Ansel Williamson, who was also black. In fact, blacks dominated horse racing in the late 1800s. The 1875 Derby race was held on May 17th at the newly opened Louisville Jockey Club racetrack, now known as Churchill Downs. Lewis's mount Aristides was one of two horses that H. Price McGrath had entered in the race in hopes of netting the $2,850 prize money. 10,000 spectators turned out that day to watch this first race. Out of the 15 jockeys in the field at this first Kentucky Derby, 13 of them were African American. Lewis and Aristides pulled away near the finish line and won the race by 2 lengths. With that victory, Lewis became the first jockey to win the Kentucky Derby. Lewis set an American record with his time of 2 minutes, 37 3/4 seconds over the 1.5 mile distance. For the record, the Kentucky Derby became a 1 1/4 mile race in 1896. Later that season, Lewis came in second in the Belmont Stakes in New York and won 3 more races at the Louisville Jockey Club, riding Aristides on all of them. He would never ride in the Kentucky Derby again, however, and would retire after that racing season for unknown reasons. After retiring, Lewis worked for a short time as a day laborer, but then began providing handicapping tables and racing forms to bookies. He later became a bookie himself, which was legal in Kentucky at that time. Oliver Lewis died in Lexington, Kentucky in 1924 at the age of 68. Another one of the many African American jockeys during the late 19th century was Isaac Burns Murphy, who won the Kentucky Derby 3 times, a record that was not broken until 1948. Murphy also has the distinction of becoming the first jockey to be inducted into the National Museum Racing Hall of Fame, and he remains known as one of the best American jockeys ever. Then there was Willie Sims, who in the 1890s became the first and only African American jockey to win all of the American Triple Crown races. In the first 28 runnings of the Kentucky Derby, African American jockeys won 15 of them. James Winfield became the second jockey to win Kentucky Derbies back-to-back in 1901 and 1902, but he was the last African American jockey to win the race. James Winfield started as a horse trainer and began his career as a jockey in 1898 at the age of 16. He was one of just 5 men to win back-to-back Kentucky Derbies. The recession of that time had taken a toll on racing as attendance fell and racetracks folded. Many white jockeys began replacing black jockeys on the horses, sometimes by force if necessary. And if a white jockey hurt a black one, no one cared too much in those days. There were even riots at racetracks over black jockeys getting the mounts over white jockeys. With Jim Crow laws in full effect, and while receiving death threats from the Ku Klux Klan, violence by white jockeys, and intimidation from the Ku Klux Klan forced Winfield to move to Russia in 1903. Winfield finally reached the fame he had always dreamed of in Russia. He was getting the recognition he deserved, not just as a top African-American jockey, but as an internationally renowned jockey of any color. Unfortunately for Winfield, in 1917, the Russian Revolution began, and once again he had to move to a new country. He moved to France, where he resumed racing, winning numerous races. After about a decade in France, he had 2,600 total wins in his career, and in 1930 retired from riding at the age of 48. Free from racism, he stayed in France on a farm where he bred and trained racehorses. Unfortunately for Winfield, in 1940 the Nazis seized his farm, and he had no choice but to move back to the United States, where little had changed in race relations. While being treated with respect in Europe, segregation still ruled American society. In 1961, 6 decades after winning his first Kentucky Derby, Winfield returned to Kentucky to attend a pre-Derby banquet. When he and his daughter arrived at Louisville's historic Brown Hotel, they were denied entry. After a long wait and repeated explanations from writers from Sports Illustrated, who confirmed that Winfield was their guest, they were finally admitted. Winfield returned to France, where he died in 1974 at the age of 91. Winfield was inducted posthumously into the National Museum of Racing Hall of Fame. Although black jockeys dominated horse racing in the late 1800s, winning 15 of the first 28 Kentucky Derbies, by the early 1900s they'd been pushed out of the sport, which also had become less accessible to the working class. After World War I, as horse racing became a major attraction for mainstream United States, African Americans were excluded from riding and were hired almost exclusively as stable hands. The reason, according to James Wakefield, was money. As he stated, when a lot of money got in the game, the white men then, like they do now and like they always have, wanted to and have not only the money but also the reputation. After 1921, there were no black riders in the Kentucky Derby. James Winfield would be the last African American jockey to ride in the race. It would take another 79 years before another African American jockey would ride in the Kentucky Derby race again. In 2000, jockey Marlon St. Julian became the first African American to ride in the Kentucky Derby since 1921. He finished 7th. In the same year, William E. Summers IV chaired the Kentucky Derby Festival Board, only the second African American to do so. Until next time, if you like little-known history facts as I do, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Press the bell to be notified of future uploads. Thank you for watching.